Imagine, like, discovering that the universe has this literal mathematical limit on exactly how many pounds of food you're allowed to eat in your entire lifetime.
Right, like a strict biological quota.
Yeah, exactly. And if you hit that specific number by the time you're, say, 30 years old, you don't just get sick. The system just terminates you. You simply die.
I mean, it sounds totally like the premise of some dystopian sci-fi novel.
It really does. But today, we're looking at a philosophical text that claims human suffering, death, and even just, our daily frustrations are driven by this uncompromising, mathematically rigid accounting system.
It's a really intense worldview to unpack.
For sure. So welcome to another custom-tailored deep dive created just for you. Today we're diving into a really provocative essay titled, "There Will Be Necessary Setbacks and Tribulations on the Journey of Life."
Written by Shuifeng on September 6, 2022.
Right. And our mission today is to explore this text's framework for why human life is just universally filled with difficulties. And just to be clear right up front, we aren't endorsing this philosophy or, presenting it as scientific fact.
Yeah, definitely not taking sides here.
Exactly. We're simply unpacking its mechanics to show you how this author constructs a worldview that treats karma and life's hardships not as random accidents, but as this deeply structured system of debt and repayment.
And what makes this source so compelling to analyze is how it takes these massive, almost incomprehensible universal laws of physics, like the conservation of energy, and maps them directly onto the most mundane human frustrations.
Right. It offers a completely different, almost brutalist lens through which to view your daily life.
It really does not pull any punches.
No, it doesn't.
Ugh.
So to grasp the mechanics of this, we need to start at the very top of the system. The essay lays out this premise that there are different levels of what it calls life.
And that's life spelled with all capital letters in the text, right?
Yes, exactly. Capital L-I-F-E. And the more perfect a life is, the higher the level of space it occupies. Essentially like a state of heaven.
Conversely, the more flawed a life is, the lower the level of space it gets assigned to.
Right. And the text states point blank that we are reincarnated into this world on Earth specifically because we have flawed lives. Like, if you were perfect, we wouldn't even be here.
You'd be in that higher space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how does the text actually quantify a flaw? Because, we usually think of a flaw as a moral failing, right? Like being cruel or dishonest.
Well, the author's definition is much more transactional than that. In this specific framework, flawed means a life that is carrying a tangible, quantifiable debt.
Oh, wow. Literally a debt.
Yeah. And whether that debt was incurred in a higher realm or maybe during a previous existence on Earth is irrelevant. The flaw is the outstanding balance itself.
Okay, let's unpack this because this completely reframes the human experience.
It really strips away the modern pursuit of self-actualization or chasing happiness.
Totally. It is literally like a cosmic double-entry bookkeeping system. You're born with a negative balance on your ledger, and your life is just this mechanical process of trying to get the account back to zero.
And the source explicitly grounds this in a foundational law to explain the mechanics. It calls it the law of the combination of positive and negative energies of the universe is zero.
The law of the zero.
Think of it as a principle of total equilibrium. In physics, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Well, the author applies this directly to morality and existence.
So it's literally just balancing the scales.
Exactly. If there is a positive action or energy expended, there must be a negative to balance it, ensuring the net result is always zero. The universe absolutely demands a zero balance.
Okay, so if your debt is finally cleared, what happens?
The text argues you return to a higher space. But if your debt is still unpaid when your physical body fails, your life simply loops back into the world to keep working on that ledger.
Man, that presents a pretty terrifying scenario for someone who actively makes the world worse.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you not only fail to pay off your existing debt, but actually accumulate more negative energy while you're here, what happens to the math then?
The system just demotes the life. It's sent to a space or a form even lower than that of a human being.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the cosmic ledger has to balance, regardless of the vessel required to achieve it.
That's intense. But if the universe's only objective for us is to return this ledger to zero, it begs a massive structural question.
Which is?
Well, why is human life so incredibly full of suffering? Like, if the goal is just repayment, why couldn't the system be designed so we simply wake up, recognize our cosmic debt, peacefully work it off, and move on?
Yeah, that friction is basically the core of the human condition in this essay. It all comes down to a specific engineered feature of human beings, which is selfishness.
Selfishness.
The text states that the life structure of human beings is fundamentally born with the function of selfishness.
But wait, if the overarching system wants us to pay off our debts, why hardwire us with the one trait that prevents us from wanting to do so?
I know, right?
I mean, that feels like a huge design flaw in the universe's accounting software.
It does seem counterintuitive, but the author implies it acts as an anchor. Like, if a life didn't possess the function of selfishness, it wouldn't be tethered to the lower realms at all.
Oh, I see. It would already exist in a state of perfection.
Exactly. Selfishness is the gravity of the human realm. Because we're inherently selfish, we cling to our energy, our resources, our comfort, and our pride. We actively resist giving things up.
Because paying a debt inherently requires losing something.
Right. And our biological programming fights against loss at every single turn. So voluntary repayment is incredibly difficult.
Okay, so how does the system account for that massive resistance?
Well, because people generally won't pay their cosmic debts willingly, the universal mechanism, which the text refers to as Tao, forces the transaction.
Enforces it.
Yeah. The text says that Tao fairly arranged some setbacks and tribulations for people to repay debts with.
Wow. So the setbacks aren't just bad luck. They're basically an automated collection agency.
That is a perfect way to describe it. They are forced audits, orchestrated by the mathematical fairness of Tao.
So if the balance must return to zero, and the human refuses to zero it out through voluntary sacrifice, the tribulations will forcefully extract it.
Exactly. They extract the necessary energy to balance the equation.
The essay makes this observation about human life that is honestly so bleak, but also deeply recognizable. It estimates that as we navigate the human world, 8 or 9 out of 10 things we encounter are unsatisfactory.
Yeah, only 1 or 2 out of 10 things actually go our way.
It's such a heavy ratio to accept. And the text goes even further, pointing out that when people live to be 60, 70, or 80 years old, looking back with sighs and regrets is a completely normal phenomenon.
It's almost universal, yeah.
And the author argues this isn't a sign that you made the wrong choices or lived badly. Like, even if you could magically rewind time and pick a different career or a different partner, there would still be a massive amount of unsatisfactory things occurring.
Because the underlying debt still exists, regardless of the path you walk.
Right. Changing your circumstances doesn't change the mathematical reality of your ledger. The setbacks are unavoidable because they are the mechanism ensuring the debt is processed.
You literally cannot outsmart the collection agency.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting now. If the universe forces repayment to balance the ledger, what happens when a debt is just catastrophic?
You mean like way beyond normal levels?
Yeah, like when a normal human lifetime of minor frustrations, a bad commute, a broken relationship, a financial loss, when that isn't enough to cover it.
Well, the text uses a very visceral, extreme example to explain the mechanics of massive debt extraction. It describes the process of reincarnating as a pig.
I found this section incredibly jarring.
Oh, it is?
The text asks, who wants to be a pig? And, the answer is obvious, nobody.
Yeah.
But the text removes human desire from the equation entirely.
Right. It claims the problem isn't about what you want. It's about whether the universe dictates you have to be a pig to settle the math.
Wait, so someone is forced to be a pig?
Yeah, going back to the law of zero, the ledger must balance. If a life accrues a debt that is astronomically large, maybe through immense cruelty or massive theft of energy, conventional human suffering just doesn't yield enough negative energy to offset it?
So the system requires a more efficient vessel for extraction.
Exactly.
It's like corporate liquidation.
Yeah.
When a company is way too far in the red, the bank doesn't just garnish the profits. They come in and sell off the actual desks, the computers, the copper wiring, and the walls.
That is an incredibly accurate way to visualize it. The universe's mechanism arranges for that life to reincarnate as livestock because the animal is a vessel for total physical extraction.
It's so intense.
It is. The text is explicit. The life must dedicate its blood, its meat, its bones, and its fur. It must literally go under the knife.
So biomass is treated as stored energy.
Yes, and the suffering and consumption of that biomass is the literal currency used to repay that massive debt.
To view the agricultural reality of a pig not just as a food supply chain, but as a cosmic soul enduring the ultimate physical audit, that is a wild paradigm shift.
It really is, but it's entirely logically consistent within the framework the author has built. The immense physical suffering and literal consumption of the pig clears the massive deficit.
And then what?
Only after all that blood, meat, and bone has been extracted and the ledger reaches zero can that life return to the world in human form.
Wow.
It strips away any notion of a punitive, angry God. It is purely a rigorous mathematical balancing of scales.
Okay, so we see how extreme the extraction gets for catastrophic deaths. But how does this strict mathematical determinism apply to our daily human biology?
Right. This brings us to the concept of the constant.
Yes, which is where the author's math gets incredibly literal regarding our physical consumption.
The text asserts that absolutely everything in the universe operates as a mathematical constant. The author uses pi as an analogy, right?
Yeah, just as the mathematical ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter remains constant, whether you're measuring a tiny coin or the entire Milky Way.
Exactly. The universe applies strict, unyielding constants to every form of physical reality.
The essay also applies this to the conservation of mass. Like, it notes that the total amount of water on Earth is a constant quantity.
Right, regardless of whether a specific region is experiencing a massive flood or a thousand-year drought. The total water just changes forms and locations, but the amount is constant.
And crucially, the text insists this law of constants applies to all forms of life too, from a single bacterium to an earthworm to a human being.
Every parameter of a life's existence is a fixed, predetermined mathematical constant.
Which leads to the concept of the food quotas. So the text says the total amount of food a person eats in their life is a constant.
It literally states that, yes, there is a predetermined set volume of consumption allotted to your specific ledger.
And as I mentioned at the start of the deep dive, if I eat my entire life's quota by age 30, I will definitely starve and die.
Yes, the biological constant is fulfilled. Once the physical allocation reaches zero, the vessel can no longer be sustained by the system.
But wait, I have a major issue with this logic.
What's that?
Well, if the entire point of being human is having enough time to suffer through tribulations and pay off your moral debt, how does starving to death at 30 because you ate too much help the ledger?
That's a good question.
Doesn't early death rob you of the time you need to pay off the spiritual debt?
Well, the text implies that the physical constants, like your food allocation, operate as the strict boundaries of your current incarnation. The overarching moral debt, however, spans across multiple lifetimes.
Oh, I see.
So if you exhaust your physical constant prematurely through, say, gluttony, your current vessel dies. But the moral debt simply rolls over to your next incarnation. The physical constants are just the parameters within which you're allowed to operate during this specific cycle.
Okay, that adds an intense layer of consequence to consumption.
Mm.
But the text does offer a really fascinating loophole here, right?
Yes, the frugal loophole.
Right. It posits that if a person lives incredibly frugally, ensuring they never waste a single grain of rice, they can alter their biological timeline.
Theoretically, if a person's life was mathematically destined to end at age 70 based on an average rate of consumption, but they've been exceptionally careful and sparse with their intake.
They reach age 70 without having consumed their total constant amount of food.
Exactly. They haven't used up their cosmic allowance. So the text claims that because the total volume of food allocated to their constant hasn't been exhausted yet, their death must be delayed.
The mathematical trigger hasn't been reached, so the life cannot end.
In this framework, frugality isn't just a financial strategy. It's an actual mechanism for extending your lifespan by stretching your cosmic constant.
It literally takes "you are what you eat" and changes it to "you are how much you eat."
Totally.
But the essay extends this idea of the constant way beyond biology. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it applies directly to justice and morality.
Oh, yeah. The life balance mechanism governs societal interactions just as strictly as it governs calories. The text asks the reader to imagine a modern governor who embezzles 200 million yuan in bribes.
A massive corruption case. And normally, human justice dictates that the governor is arrested, thrown in prison, or sentenced to death, right?
Yeah.
With all their property confiscated.
The author totally agrees that this human justice is fair, but the deeper point is that even if the human justice system fails, like if the governor escapes the law completely, the mechanism of Tao will not fail.
Because the math demands balance.
Exactly. The universe views that 200 million stolen yuan as a massive, unauthorized transfer of positive energy into the governor's ledger. To balance the constant, the Tao must apply an equal amount of negative energy to that specific life.
But how does the Tao convert financial energy into negative consequences?
By draining the individual's life force or severely manipulating their circumstances, the text states the Tao might make that governor terminally ill, drive them to commit suicide, or plunge them into a state of relentless psychological terror where they live day and night without a moment of peace.
So the universe converts the stored energy of the stolen money into a physical or psychological deficit to equalize the equation.
Right. As the author concludes on this point, the mechanism of Tao will keep the constant of life rigorous and eternal. There is literally no escaping the math.
This paints a picture of a universe operating as a completely unforgiving, automated debt collection agency. I mean, every grain of rice is counted, every ounce of pain is weighed against past selfishness.
It's a lot to process.
With all of that hanging over our heads, how is a person supposed to actually cope with the daily grind of tribulations? It sounds psychologically exhausting.
The text actually anticipates that reaction. To navigate this crushing determinism, the essay shifts tone a bit and points to the beautiful rhythms of nature.
Nature's rhythms.
Yeah. The author writes, "Flowers bloom and wither, and the tide rises and falls." The text specifically highlights the moon, noting that there is only one full moon in an entire month.
Right.
The rest of the time, the waning of the moon is a completely regular, expected phenomenon.
The point being that the waning phases of our lives, the setbacks, the losses, the tribulations, they are as natural and unavoidable as the tide going out.
It's just the rhythm of the universe balancing its energy.
But because it's a natural law, the text demands this highly counterintuitive mindset from us. It states that when facing these painful debts, you must maintain a calm and even joyful mind.
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow.
I have to push back on the realism of that. I mean, you get fired from your job or your car breaks down on the highway and you're supposed to be joyful. It feels dismissive of actual human trauma.
The text doesn't deny the trauma, though. It explicitly acknowledges that borrowing debts is easy and to repay them is difficult. Debt repayment is painful.
Okay, so where does the joy come from?
The joy the author demands isn't an emotional celebration of the tragedy itself. It's more of a profound, almost detached recognition of the math. You're supposed to be joyful because a line item on your cosmic ledger has just been cleared.
Oh, wow. So the pain is just the feeling of the debt leaving your account.
Exactly. Every bit of suffering brings you closer to a zero balance, which, as we established, is the prerequisite for returning to a perfect state in a higher space.
So what does this all mean for us? Are we just stuck enduring the pain, forcing a smile while the universe extracts its toll? Or is there a way to actually lessen the suffering we have to endure?
The author provides one singular solution. While frustrations and tribulations are inevitable, they can be reduced to a bearable level. The absolute best way to alleviate setbacks is to generate merits.
But how does one generate a merit in a system that only cares about math?
The text is unequivocal here. The best way to generate merits is to give and dedicate selflessly. There is no other way.
There is no other way.
Next.
So if human selfishness is the anchor trapping us in this painful cycle of debt repayment, the only antidote is the exact opposite behavior, selfless giving.
Yes. By voluntarily giving away your energy, your time, or your resources, you're paying down the principal on your debt on your own terms.
You're choosing to lower the balance manually.
Exactly. Rather than waiting for the universe to forcefully extract it through, a sudden illness, a financial collapse, or an extreme reincarnation.
You take control of the audit. You preempt the forced collection by making voluntary deposits.
Spot on.
You know what I find so striking about this essay is the landing. After exploring all these massive concepts, cosmic ledgers, the law of zero energy, total biological constants, and reincarnating as livestock, the very last line of the text brings the entire philosophy down to the most micro, universally relatable level imaginable.
It really grounds the math in everyday reality.
It does. The final sentence is simply, if someone makes you unhappy, and that is also a tribulation.
That perfectly encapsulates the daily application of this worldview.
It really means you don't have to wait for a massive catastrophe to pay off your cosmic debt. The debt is being paid in the tiny, irritating moments of daily life.
Right.
So we've gone on quite a journey today, unpacking a framework that completely strips away the modern concept of victimhood.
Because in this paradigm, you aren't a victim of bad luck. You are an active participant in balancing a cosmic equation.
For you listening, whether you subscribe to the spiritual elements of reincarnation or view this entirely as just a philosophical thought experiment, this text provides a really structured, if intense, way to reframe those moments when you feel overwhelmed.
It transforms the chaotic, stressful concept of bad luck into a necessary system of universal balance.
Yeah, it gives a strange kind of purpose to the friction of daily life.
It suggests that absolutely nothing is wasted. Every single frustration has a mathematical value.
We will leave you with one final thought to mull over. Think about the bookkeeping metaphor we've been exploring. If every single thing in the universe is a constant, and every minor annoyance, even just a coworker making you mildly unhappy in a Tuesday morning meeting, is actually you successfully paying off a required cosmic debt and clearing a line item on your ledger,
Yeah.
does that mean your most frustrating, annoying days are actually your most profitable?
It certainly changes the way you look at a bad day at the office.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.